In Stefan's world, challenges in education meet familial love and complex parenting decisions.
Daily fight to get him out of bed, dressed, and out the door to go to school. It was a daily fight to get him to do his homework. We had several conferences with teachers, and even on the IEP, he was not progressing. So I talked to the principal of the school, and I said, "What can I do?" And she said, "Have you ever tried homeschooling?" And I said, "Well, no. Don't you have to have, a full college degree for that?" And I said, "17 credits. I don't have my degree yet." And she says, "No, you don't have to, because you are going to be supporting him, but he's going to be doing his classes with Florida Virtual School." So that's what happened. And we were able to get him up at 10 in the morning.
Yes,
So maybe that's coddling him, but it was easier on me too, because I usually don't go to sleep until 2 or 3 in the morning. So, hey, I didn't have to be up at 6:30 in the morning to get him up. He was able to eat food.
Now remember, Stephan Stearns did this to his parents. His parents may have done that to him and coddled him and babied him, but my sneaking suspicion is still that they did this out of love for Stephan. They're older parents, you guys. Well, he's 38 or so, and let's say 72, 73. I'm 45, my mom's 70. So as you get a little bit older, they had another child. They coddled him, yes, but again, I believe it was out of love, no matter what, if it was overbearing or not the right amount of love. Stephan, they did that to Stephan, and he did that to them. All of this that's happening is because Stephan wanted to do these things with Maddie, and he did. He abused her, and that's what happened. That's what happened here in this justice for Madeline Soto. All right, guys, what's up, sweetie? Good to see you. Yeah, do me a favor, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, get a membership if you can. I appreciate you guys for taking the time and listening to the narrative that I'm playing for you. Thank you. Thank you for being respectful.
And we were able to take short breaks and progress at a rate that would interest him, because some stuff he could just speed through. English language, sentences, reading, history, science. He loved all of that, and he devoured it. Math, no.
Hates math.
Math for me, no. So I called it a tutor. You're usually good at one thing. If you're good on the historical, on the English side, you're usually not good on math. I don't have a linear brain. So I had to bring in a tutor. But he had to take his tests orally with a proctor over the phone, and I could not be in the room. And did I help him with his homework? Yep, I did. Don't most people help the kids with their homework?
I have to be honest with you guys. What I'm hearing in this interview, like right now, it sounds to me like they're mourning Stephan Stearns. If we take it from the very beginning, and you've been here, it's an hour and 41 minutes we've been here together, but it literally sounds like they're talking about a son that they're never going to be with another birthday. They're not going to be with him for his birthday at a party. They sound like they're talking about their son that passed away, which again, he didn't pass away. He's in prison by his own volition. He did that to himself. So that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know if Dr. John is going to interject and talk about that, but that's what it sounds like. It sounds like they're talking about a child that's gone. Stephan Stearns' parents, absolutely. They're like Chris Watts. They refuse to admit the guilt, because that would mean they have to admit, although at the beginning of this, they did admit that. They did admit that. They're definitely not going to be able to be a good character witness, that's for sure.
I didn't do it for him, but I helped him.
I wish you were my parent, because I never got help with homework.
Anyway, and I also gave him courses that they weren't offering in school. We did marine biology. We did oceanography. We did stuff that he liked. He loved dinosaurs. We looked into that. So I feel like he got a better education at home than he got in school. He didn't have the distractions.
He didn't have to wake up.
Or he wasn't distracting the kids around him, and he wasn't frustrating the teacher.
Yes.
But when he described his algebra teacher to me,
Now, when you have to look at the brighter side of a situation, and that's what the brighter side is, hey, you'll take it. At least they're not like the laundry family. That is the most insane thing I've ever heard any parents do, is to sit, like, literally right to your face. You say, hey, I'm looking for my daughter, and you know what happened, and your son's sitting in there, and you're not doing anything. And all the way up until they found his body, I believe they took some of that evidence when they found him first. All right. Just saying. Thank you. Be real. We're going to have some beanies on the website soon. And then you could be part of the new, or part of the Guilty of Crime crew family with cool beanies. All right. Let's keep going. Yeah. I see. All right. Let's keep going. This one's long. I don't know what I'm going to do here.
As a woman who stood at the blackboard with her back to the class, talked to the backboard while doing, combinations up on the board, doing algebraic expressions, and they couldn't understand her, couldn't hear her, and she never helped anybody do anything. And I said, why is he even here? You were still allowed to participate with the school because you were still basically enrolled with the school. So he still got to go to prom, he still got to go to graduation, he walked and got his diploma.
Got the cap and gown of the whole thing.
Yep.
What was he? So was he in the virtual program throughout the entirety of high school, or just a few years? What was the?
2.5 years in high school.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that he tended to be a bit solitary. Was that
I can.
after high school, or was he a bit of a solitary person in high school as well?
Yes. He had his cadre of close friends. He didn't
Yeah, man.
huge group of friends. He had 4 or 5 close friends, and that was all he wanted in his life. Just his little circle of friends. He was not a social butterfly by any means.
And do you think that the accident had something to do with that?
I think so. He was quite gregarious beforehand. He would go and knock on people's doors and say, "Do you have somebody my age that I can play with?" No, he would introduce himself to people. He would run around and ride around his bicycle looking to see if there were any games he could join in. And he did do kickball and stuff like that. And he went fishing, taught him to fish.
Once.
I was the fisherman, not him. I kind of was more of an outdoorsy person because of the horses, and I also got Stephan a horse. He wanted a horse, he got a horse, but he had to promise to work with me in the barn. That meant cleaning, shoveling poop, bringing shavings in, hauling hay with me, going and picking up more shavings, which
She sure did. And you're a member. You'll hear about what was said tomorrow. She reached back out to me. First, we start on Facebook, and then we move to text messaging. So, yeah, absolutely. All right. That's why I want to see the other side of this. I mean, no one wants to talk to you if you're blaming them. Yeah, horses are expensive, but if you have a farm out in Florida or out in the middle of nowhere, I think they did have a bit of money earlier on with their with owning the business that they had that was like real estate type of stuff. Yeah, the Purple Dragon, guys, the Purple Dragon. Now we're talking about that. What's up, Lorene? Good to see you. And Sharon, there you go.
all the kids love that because they got to run in the pickup truck on top of all the shavings. But and now people are saying that sounds like just the worst thing I could ever do is to have him actually work to support his horse and to help me because I was having some physical problems from these surgeries I had on my feet. So there was some things that I just couldn't do. But he loved running out at night. He would just grab a hunk of mane, hop on their bareback, and make it run around the pasture. Every night we went out together and gave the horses peppermint candy before we went to bed. So it was, to me, that was an ideal life. He was able to go into the
they are
ocean, catch frogs, catch lizards, catch snakes.
I'm you guys are helping me kind of develop a picture of your son, and the more you talk about him, obviously, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels to some extent like like your son was very childlike in a way. Like it's almost like with his interest in games as an adult and the solitary pursuits, it almost looked like he really struggled to grow up.
I think so. And I will also say he's a narcissist.
Okay.
It was all about Stephan. When Stephan wanted something, Stephan wanted it then. He didn't want to wait. He didn't want to wait for Christmas. He didn't want to wait for his birthday. It was now, and he would throw a fit. And that was hard. That was hard on us, but it was harder on him because we didn't give into it.
Even when he was younger, he would teenage years, he never grew out of that.
No.
No.
Kept waiting for, it seemed like there was a disconnect. You were kind of this close, and all you needed to do is make this connection. It is like,
That he had no impulse control.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay.
To do what he did.
That's a big deal, impulse control. Now, a lot of children don't have good impulse control when they're children, you guys. What you gotta figure out the things to do to help direct that. Yeah, Thomas, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, our son did not have impulse control, so to speak, either. His impulse control was terrible, but that's what kids do. And you got to learn to direct them properly. Again, I'm not going to judge and say, because I don't know that my son's not going to go be, or maybe my son's doing weird shit right now. He's 25 years old. He lives in his own apartment. He has a girlfriend, and I don't know what he's doing all the time. I don't want anything bad to happen with him, but I raised him, and yeah, the world is full of lack of impulse control. Exactly. All right. And yeah, and my son got that many times. But if he were to go commit some awful, heinous crime, I would hate for you guys to be like coming back at me and saying, you did that, you created that. Well, at least I can say I didn't give birth to either of my